dreaming of downsizing, simplifying life, reducing your stress, getting out of the old rat race? This is definitely going to help you.
Live a happy, freedom life. So, you're dreaming of downsizing, you're thinking of getting out of the old rat race and simplifying your life, but you've been in it your whole life. You don't know where to begin. So, let's share some thoughts, things that we did that will help you on your journey to simplifying your life. We lived in a great big giant house, 2 stories, big white house, on a hill, lots of land, living room, 20 by 20 easily, 400 square feet, giant kitchen. You could rollerblade from one end to the other end, upstairs, bedrooms all over the place, up and down bathrooms, huge, huge house on a big lot. And, when you turned on the faucet, you didn't really care where the water came from. It just was there. And an average typical family in the United States today, the average person uses more than 80 gallons of water a day, more than 300 gallons for, whatever they define a family as. And, so it's kind of, you just use it and you don't think about it. And it's the same thing with electricity. You turn on the lights, you turn on your coffee maker, you blow dry your hair, whatever. You don't think about where things are coming from. And when you go to downsize, all that stuff becomes important. And the paradigm there, the rat race wheel that you're stuck in, is you can't imagine how you can do it any other way. And so how can you transition to a life where you're more aware of what electricity you're using, you're more aware of what water you're using, and you actually need far less of all of these things to live in the world? So what we did is we sold everything that we owned. We sold the house, we sold the pickup trucks, the motorcycle. Actually I gave the motorcycle away to somebody, but that's a whole nother story that I've shared before. And we bought a sailboat, and we lived on our sailboat full time for 9 years. So, you can get a sailboat, you can get a power boat. A more likely option for you might be an RV. We jokingly call RV land yachts, because an RV sits on wheels on the pavement and a boat floats in the water, but they're pretty much the same thing. The 12-volt systems that you have a generator, you have solar panels, maybe you have a wind generator, you got a bank of batteries to power you at night when you're sleeping and you don't want to have things there's no sun, you don't want to run generators. And you learn how all of this functions. And the sailboat that we had was 36 feet long and about 12 feet wide at the beam. So, you figure out how much space that is. And it had an 80-gallon water tank and a 70-gallon diesel fuel tank for the engine. But, 80 gallons of water, and that was it. It was in a tank. When you turned on the water faucet, boop, 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 the pump ran and the water would come out and you'd shut it off. I did things like I purchased a typical coffee maker that you have in your house today is, 1,200, 1,300 watts, something like that. That's a lot of energy when you're thinking about where it's coming from. So I purchased a little coffee maker for in the boat. And I'm going to say, I think it was like 450, 500 watts, something like that. And I would plug the coffee maker in, get the coffee in it, get the water in it, turn the maker on and stand there and watch the coffee pot and watch it brew. And the moment it was done brewing, I turned the coffee pot off and I poured the coffee into a really nice glass thermos, to keep it warm, so we weren't using any more electricity. I'd start the generator. We had the Honda EU 2000i generator. I would start the generator up in the morning to top off the batteries. run the electric water heater, because otherwise you got to run the engine in the boat, and all those things. And it's just, you just learn how to deal with it. You learn, minimal water showers. Today in our homestead, right here where we are now, we use about 15 gallons of water a day, and half that's probably for the chickens and the cats and the dogs. We don't use much water at all. So you think about that. The average person uses 80 gallons of water a day. So for a couple, for two people, that's 160 gallons. We use 15. we can go, a whole month and use what most people use in a couple of days. And we use hardly any electricity. We have all LED lights, and they're not on when we don't need them. And we don't use kerosene or that. We have them for backup. But, those are all the things. So think about an RV motorhome. Think about a sailboat. Think about spending time. You got to pass in the aisle. You got to make sure only one person in the galley, one person in the kitchen at a time. Wait your turn, and you just learn to adapt to this life and learn what you need and what you really don't need. Because when you live in the rat race, the way things are, you just don't realize that you don't need all of that stuff. It's that programming that we all learn as we grow up, of bigger, 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 more, better, better, better. And that's, it's just not necessary. You can live on just a little bit of water. You can live on a little bit of electricity. You can live in a small, tiny space. You don't need this mansion of a house that you can, rollerblade from one end to the other. You can live together in a small space. It's just amazing. And it's such a much happier life and a less stressful life when you make that move. And you can do it. I know you can. So think about RV, think about sailboat, think about getting your little piece of land, getting out of the rat race. The budget then, of how much money you have to spend. A used car with no payment, minimal insurance. If you have a 2,000 square foot home, think about what your property taxes are, what your homeowner's insurance is. If you have a home that $300 a year property tax, as opposed to thousands and thousands of dollars. Your insurance on your vehicle can be $30 a month instead of $300 a month, because you don't have to carry collision on a $30,000 car. You can have a old used beater that gets you to the store and back, and you're happier. And that's what's really important. So think about that. Living a happy freedom life, even when it seems like, especially this crazy world that we're in right now today.